Gentleman from New York is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 5 minutes to the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Smith, Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on Global Health, Global Human Rights, and International Organizations.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thanks, my good friend, for yielding. Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong support of HRES 888, reaffirming the State of Israel's right to exist. I thank my good friend from New York, Michael Lawler, for introducing this timely, extremely important, and ever necessary resolution. Israel is the only state in the world whose fundamental right to exist is openly denied by other states. Some of them, including Iran, even call for Israel's complete destruction and support transnational terrorist organizations to work towards its demise. It is also the only state in the world whose fundamental right to exist is constantly undermined and challenged by intergovernmental organizations such as, and most shamefully of all, the United Nations. The anti-Semitism motivating those who deny Israel's right to exist is apparent, but it is important to connect, as this resolution does, the denial of Israel's right to exist to anti-Semitism and to connect them both as enabling causes to the monstrous crimes Hamas has unleashed on Israel. Make no mistake, Mr. Speaker, anti-Semitic bigotry is the root of UN's hostility towards Israel, which is ugly, evil, and manifests itself in almost every UN entity. On November 8th, I chaired a hearing of my subcommittee on, and we called it, United Nations Bigotry Towards Israel. We heard expert testimony from Hillel Neuer, Executive Director of UN Watch, and Jonathan Schnazzer, the Senior Vice President for Research at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Hillel told us that, and I quote, teachers in schools at the UN Relief and Works Agency, which runs education and social services for Palestinians, regularly call to murder Jews and create teaching materials that glorify terrorism, encourage martyrdom, demonize Israelis, and incite anti-Semitism. He further said in 2000 alone, UNRWA received $344 million in U.S. funding. Yet a March 2023 report by UN Watch and Impact SC identified 133 UNRWA educators and staff who were found to promote hate and violence on social media, an additional 82 teachers and other staff affiliated with 30 UNRWA schools who were involved in drafting and distributing hateful contents to their students. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Jonathan Schnazner testified that, and I quote him, the UN doesn't recognize Hamas as a terrorist group, nor does it recognize Hezbollah either. That means UN resources are regularly provided to members of those terrorist organizations. According to the great human rights defender, Mr. Speaker, Natan Sharansky's famous 3D test for anti-Semitism, which he articulated at a hearing that I chaired way back in 2004, criticism of Israel is nothing less than anti-Semitic when it passes over into the demonization of Jews and Israel, delegitimizes the Jewish state, or applies double standards that is one standard for Israel and another for every other country on earth. That is what many UN entities and agencies do every single day. Yesterday, the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, the JTA, reported that the latest example of the double standard and said, nearly 50 days after Hamas's attack on Israel left 1,200 dead, and after weeks of criticism over its silence about allegations of sexual violence during the attack, the women's rights group UN Women issued a statement condemning the terror group on Friday. Then it deleted the post. Here's what it said originally. We condemn the brutal attack by Hamas on October 7th and continue to call for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages, read the initial statement posted on UN Women's Instagram page. It was soon replaced with a statement that dropped the condemnation of Hamas and only called for the release of the hostages. Mr. Speaker, there are so many examples. In 2022, the UN General Assembly targeted Israel in a total of 15 harshly critical resolutions, compared to 13 country-specific resolutions for the entire world, China, North Korea, Iran. 13 for all of them combined, 15 for Israel. In a large measure, it is because of the UN which unquestionably is the world's foremost legitimizer of anti-Semitism, that it is necessary that 75 years after the founding of the great state of Israel, we need to reaffirm its right to exist. And I thank my good friend and colleague, both he and my friend from Florida, for authoring this important resolution. Yield back.
Gentleman reserves. Gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
I yield 2 minutes to my good friend,